Welcome to Thrive. We are so grateful to have you again here with us. It is my esteemed privilege to have today's special guest on Thrive, and not only the ALS leadership team, but a friend, a mentor, a hero of mine, who is a creator, he is an entrepreneur, he's an evangelist, he's a pastor, and he is a dreamer. And we want people in our lives that raise our faith level, raise our ability to dream and think bigger. Just to give you an example, we met 16 years ago. We were on a committee to do a student leadership conference. I walk in, 16 years ago there was no such thing as YouTube. It was just a bright spot in somebody's mind. It was just coming on the scene. And we sat at a table brainstorming, trying to figure out how do we really appeal to a student leadership conference. And this one to the right of me came up with the idea. YouTube had just came out, and we were doing our best to find some way to relate to students. And so the theme of that event was called, "It's All in the Tube." It's all in the tube. Can you imagine an apostolic church doing a theme like "It's all in the tube"? But we're risk takers, right? That's what people of faith are. R-I-S-K. That's how you spell faith. And so we took a tube, a cardboard tube, and all the resources for that whole conference, all the little gadgets and giveaways, and then we had a label on the outside calling it YouTube. The conference was YouTube. It's all in the tube. That is the level of ahead of the ball game, sons of Issachar thinking that we have at the table today. And I really wanted to talk at some point, I may do that next month, about excellence and going above it. At that meeting, he also brought up this concept I'd never heard before: overpromise, rather underpromise, overdeliver. Which means as you exhibit excellence to a point that people can't forget you. You say you're going to do one thing and then you raise the bar. When you actually deliver, you raise the bar for the event, the conference, the moment, the presentation, all the way up to right here. And so I could think of nobody else to come. He's as an entrepreneur, he's letting his boys run the Blue Thread clothing business. He told me at lunch today, they have 78 NFL players that they have in the hopper right now. They've already started fitting them for custom clothing for NFL players. That's he doesn't think on, okay, let's go to the local high school. He thinks, okay, let's go to the NFL and see what we can do with this. So I'm going to step out of the way. I am so honored to have my friend, Pastor Nathaniel Rios, his wife and son here today, and a whole table full, a host full of leaders that are just anticipating what you can pour into us in the next 21 minutes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Pastor Meyer, and I greet each of you leaders here, and it truly is an honor. And this is really where I like to thrive, is in the conversation of leadership and talking through the nuts and bolts. I enjoy preaching, and it's an honor and privilege to declare the gospel. But sitting down and having conversation with leaders and those that are key components into moving the gospel forward in your city. And so today, as we were sorting, usually I've tried to prepare for a longer full day, and maybe that's something we could do in the future. But when we were talking about just kind of a little inspirational piece to kind of get together, we started a piece, a leadership conference or get-together retreat, some sort, however you want to brand that, called Conversations, and we would have speakers come and speak for 21 minutes. And it's kind of like 21 encapsulates, in 21 days you can start a new behavior, new point. And so it's much challenging for me because usually it takes me a bit to kind of get the ball rolling. I like to tell stories, and my stories are not like, 1, 2, 3, go. It's like 1, 2, 5 hours later you get to the point. Which is, it's my fault that we were running behind today, and I apologize, but they got me onto a story and I just had to finish it. So, but today, what I wanted to do was kind of take you through just putting some triggers in your spirit, because obviously in 21 minutes, I've got so much in the tank that like a tube's not going to work anymore. Like we're at a boat. And just the years experience, and by no stretch of the imagination do I feel like I've got a lock on life, or do I have a corner on the market. But I've got several years of just serving in ministry in different facets of ministry, from being raised in CLC, Brother Haney's church, to a beautiful opportunity of being in Texas for a few years in Beaumont, and then God leading me to Brother Carney's in Columbia, which was a large church in a rural setting, to now us church planting in Oxford, and now our second campus in Eupora. So the 21 minutes, how I want to do it is I've got 7 components that I'm going to throw out there, and this is very spirit-led. Okay, it's going to be very organic. In fact, I've asked my wife to help me with this, and she has no clue what the 7 topics are. But to keep it interesting, and we're going to throw it out there. I'm going to hit that 21-minute mark, and then after that, then we can open it up for conversation or questions or anything. And we do have to get back, but I will sit around this table till the last person drops, and then I'll still drive to Virginia. So we're not in any hurry, because this is really the lifeline of the church, is those leaders that are saying, hey, let's talk about some things after we've worshiped. So, all right, I got my counter on, because that keeps me on track. So there it goes, 3 minutes, you start talking at 1 minute, right? So the first concept that I want to throw out is called strangers, okay? Strangers. When you're working in the church world, you're going to be dealing with a bunch of strangers. You can't be afraid of strangers. If you want to meet, you want to declare the gospel. In this lobby, there's strangers, okay, that we don't know, but they're maybe listening, they're maybe eavesdropping, maybe they're got family in the community. And so what we've got to understand is that if we're going to really make a difference in the world, that we've got to be okay with strangers. Okay, and this came to me when we arrived here. I found this book, or this little Doom of Lachi magazine in my vehicle, and I said, okay, I'm going to grab that. That'll be good for our little talk. Okay, so strangers is the most important. These are the most important people. You have 21,000 strangers in Grove, Mississippi. I want to say Grove, Mississippi, but in Groves, Texas. And it might seem overwhelming if you're sitting there thinking, but I've moved to Oxford. We didn't know one person in that town. It was me, my wife, and 4 boys. And today I've got a relationship with the head baseball coach of the college baseball team, which, by the way, just won the national championship. Toddy. But I've got a relationship with him, and I've got relationships with the mayor. The mayor and I are on really, when COVID hit, I was the first person that she called to talk through some ideas that we could help care for our community. So I've gone in there, and they're not strangers to me in that city. We might only have about 86 or 87 people that come to our Sunday gathering, but I'm there to pastor 21,000 people and 23,000 college students. Okay, so that's who I'm pastoring. I'm not running 86. I'm running 23,000. They just haven't got to my building yet, right? And at some point, we're going to have church in the pavilion, which seats 9,000. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. Like, churches have got to look to that building. It was a great crowd today, and you guys are doing a great job. And it's exciting to see the uniqueness that's around the table. Okay, from somebody that just does whatever their wife tells them to do, to the guy that's actually got amen. Something there. How much time do we have? You're supposed to be talking. So strangers.
If you are not a natural extrovert, then sometimes it's hard to pull people into your ministry, or hard to witness to people outside of people that you know. And my husband doesn't meet a stranger. I am naturally more of an introvert. I've lived with him for 20 years though, and he's pulled a lot out of me. But when we moved to Oxford, he met somebody where he was working, and he calls me and says, I've set up a lunch. You're gonna go meet this lady. And I'm like, what lady? Yeah, this is her name. I'm like, I don't know what she looks like. I don't know what she, just show up at this place. You'll find each other. You're gonna meet this lady. And so it's about getting out of your comfort zone and reaching those people that you wouldn't normally do. But also, also investing into what they're interested in and making that relationship, and that's how you build. Now you took 20
So
seconds of my
everybody
time,
says-
so I can't say myself.
Everybody say strangers, right? There's no more strangers in Groves, Texas, right? Okay, so the next piece is can anybody tell me what this book represents or could represent?
International.
Okay, internet missions, great. You guys gave a great offering to missions. That's awesome. Okay, this is actually Great Britain. Okay, but this is not just about Great Britain. This represents history. Okay, so history is the next word that I want you to trigger. How many of you know the history of this church? Somewhat, okay? So if you don't know the history of the church, if you guys want to be effective leaders in this church, then you need to go back and study the history of this church. Wow. Okay? How did it get started? Who started the first church? Was it David Meyer? What did he do? Okay? If it was somebody before him, how do we get to that point? How do we get to the place? What's the history of the church over the last 15 years? What's the patterns? What's the process? Where do we see growth points? Where do we see attrition points? We're all dealing with the recovering point of COVID, right? So what is the history? And that's what we've had to do, is look at the history of our church. Our church is only 7 years old, but by year 5, we were starting our second campus. Now that was an accident, and I'm crazy, and I didn't have anything else to do but sit in my house, so let's go start a church, right? So we went down there into an area where there was a need. There was a bunch of strangers that were needing, that they were, yes, we were trying to be wise, and yes, COVID is real, okay? But it was a need, and when we walked in that city in Yapora, Mississippi, a town of 2,500, they were just wanting to get to church. They were wanting to have that connect point. And so it's important, if you're new to this church, just moved here, okay? You're new to the community. Understand the history of this church. Understand where it came from, because that's going to help you understand where you're headed. So, history.
Knowing the story is important, because when you really know the story or know people, you don't have to try to perceive things. That the saying is perception is reality. And I'm going to write a book. Perception is not reality. Perception is assumption. But when you know people and you know their story, you can give them benefit of the doubt. So we don't have a right to an opinion about someone that we don't know, right? But when you know each other's story in this room, and you know the story of the church and of your pastor and the history there, like he was talking about, you build trust. And a team is not a group of people who just work together. A team is a group of people who trust each other. And if you can build trust among one another, that's how you make a difference and you grow and you strengthen. But trust is always built in difficult times. And so know that when you come to a difficult time with your team, the people you're leading, or this group in this room, that's an opportunity to build trust and to know their story and know why they behave like they behave, or say what they say, or do what they do. And that's how we build trust and we grow with each other.
All right, everybody say traction. Traction. Okay, I came across this book on expanding businesses, and the title says, or the kind of the point is, get a grip on your business. Okay, and I would change that and say, get a grip on your church. Okay, understanding traction. This book is a must for business owners and their management team. Traction provides a powerful, practical, and simple system on running your business. Okay, and he talked about excellence, that process of excellence, and what that looks like, and the detail of that. In fact, it wasn't until I went to Columbia to where I really was able to understand the process of excellence. In fact, one particular time there was a story that was told of Brother Carney. There was a stink bug that was in the building, and Brother Carney said, please don't kill that, because the first thing you do, you see a stink bug, and you want to go, bam, you smash on it, right? Because it stinks, and it's a bug. Like, who likes bugs, right? No one likes bugs. But he said, don't do that, because when you squash it, it makes marks on the floor. Okay, and then he was trying to say, look, we don't want that. We don't want those, because you start adding those things. Okay, it starts wear and tear on the building and different things as such. And so excellence, though, is pushing us beyond. It's doing things that no one else wants to do. Okay, and excellence in the small things is excellence in all things. Okay, and so when you make that point, okay, you got to understand that you guys are the management team of this church. Okay, you guys are the ones that are going to take and understand the systems that are in place, the systems that they took in place, not the systems that the elder had in place. Okay, we thank God for Pastor David Meyer. We thank for for the history and the legacy that is them. But we're in a new day and age. We're in a whole different situation. God, they didn't have security teams when they were pastoring, right? But it is the wisest thing in the world to have a security team with all the chaos that's going on in our world right now. It's the smartest thing to have somebody that's in the back, keeping watching those doors, managing those things. And so understanding traction and what traction means.
You cannot talk in 2 minutes.
I'm waiting for you to interrupt me. Like, this is the only time you can interrupt me.
When I think of traction, I think of like being in a situation where you can't get out, right? You need traction to get out of the hole. You're stuck in the mud, you need traction to move that forward. And I think that the way that you can gain that traction in those times is letting people know why you do what you do, right? People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. And the things what you do is simply proving the point of what you believe, okay? So people don't buy what you do, they're gonna buy why you do it. So when you are in that slippery situation, make sure they know the why behind what you're doing. Because a lot of times if they know the why and you get in those tough, slippery situations, it will give you the why gives you the traction to get out of the hole sometimes if they know the why.
All right. So everybody say strangers.
Strangers.
No more. History. Traction. A blessed life. Okay, has anybody not read this book? Have you read this book?
Some of it.
Okay, it's a great book on tithing, giving, finances, all that stuff. Now, I'm not here to talk tithing or giving. That's his part. The principle is if you want to live the blessed life, it's really not about giving your money. It's about being generous. And it's being generous in your time, your talent, and treasure. Okay? And that's what we've got to understand, that when you step to the plate to serve in the church, you're not getting paid most of the time, right? Probably in our church, we don't have any paid volunteers or paid volunteers. Yeah. Paid volunteers are right. Okay. We don't have any paid full-time staff. We did have a young lady that was serving as our church administrator last year, and she's transitioned. But the thing about it is at the end of the day, you're giving of your time, you're giving of your talent, your treasure to move the gospel forward, and that is a game changer in itself. But I'm telling you, God takes good records. He really does. And I've watched my mom and dad's life. I watched my dad fight Parkinson for 27 years. But I feel like God gave that time to him, and he ended his life in a positive frame because of the time, the talent, and treasure that my dad poured in, volunteering hours to the kingdom of God. And so I want you to understand that don't look at it as from the perspective of, hey, this is a challenge, but look at it from the perspective, I get an opportunity to experience a life of generosity.
And I think it comes down to, many times we want to call ourselves leaders, or we're on the leadership team, and we use that word a lot, and sometimes people want to get on that team just because there's a title there, but it comes down to, are we leading people, or are we serving people? Leaders only mentioned 6 times in the Bible, but servant is mentioned over 900 times. And so if we can change our paradigm, not so much of leading people, but I'm serving people that are underneath me, and automatically you will lead them if you're serving them. But if you can exemplify there's a book called The God of the Towel. If you can exemplify servanthood and getting down to where they are, letting them get credit where maybe you did the work, those kind of things, when you can learn that I am a servant to the people that I am over or leading, okay, you're automatically going to be a leader in their sight. But it really comes down to serving those that are around us.
So big things. The next thing is big things. All right, everybody say big things.
Big things.
This is a weekly planner that I bought because I was going to get so organized that I got 3 planners. And it's really helping me because now I can't keep track of the 3. But hey, big things. Everybody say big things.
Big things.
So strangers no more, history, traction, the blessed life, and big things. Listen, if you're not doing it big, you're not doing it well. Okay? If there's no sense of fear or opportunity to fail, then you need to go back to the drawing board. Your event's not big enough. Okay? And yeah, we need to be wise. And I thank God for men that are wise and cautious and but at the same token, like to walk out on water was not cautious, right?
No.
But there's only one guy that ever did it, because he was the only one that was willing to take faith and make it into risk, right? So you got to be wise. Like, we have a dream of having church in the pavilion, right? That's 9,000. But we've had to start with often small beginnings, okay? And so, I have a dream of seeing 3 million people gather on the mall for a prayer revival. And the first time we went to go do this prayer revival, it was me, my wife, and 5 kids. And I was like, I promoted it for 4 years. And no one showed up except for me and my family. And they had to show up. Right? But God started moving on me. He said, if you can just take each one and let them reach one. And I started doing the multiplication in 20 years. If I got 14 people to the mall in year 2, and I got 28 people to the mall in year 3, and I got 56 or what is it, 28? Yeah, 56 people to the mall year 4. If you keep doing that to the multiple of the power of 20, you could see 3.6 million people gather on the mall.
Incredible.
So if you look at it and say, okay, if each one of you would make one disciple in 1 year, that would be 200 people coming to your church if you have 100 people, okay? And then if you take that and you go, that 200 people each reach one, then by the next year, year 2, you guys would be running 400 people. That's discipling one person a day. Just disciple one. So understanding the value of big things and small things.
You just touched on our theme next year.
Each one reach one.
Usually if you're doing big things, you're like getting in a boat and going out of the harbor where it's safe, right? A boat is safe in the harbor, but if you take it out of its safety zone, you have faith to go out on the water, right? So as leaders, as servants, you are trying to get people to come herald a cause with you, whether that's kids ministry or that's music ministry, or you're trying to get people in your boat, right? But then you're always gonna have those people that like to rock the boat, right? But there is a quote that says, only the guy who isn't rowing has time to rock the boat. So if you get people in your boat, you got to teach them to row. If they're rowing, you're going to have less rocking of the boat. So get them to row.
Yeah, that was really good. I'm going to have to give you a raise on that. You're doing really well. I'm proud of you.
I am not spontaneous, so this is out of my comfort zone.
She is not spontaneous, and I was afraid she was going to bow up on me and freak, but I'm proud of you. Okay, so all I got right here, we're here. Okay, so say strangers no more,
Strangers no
history,
more.
traction, the blessed life, big things. All right, here we go. Dream, plan, do.
Dream, plan, do.
Okay, dream it big, or don't dream at all. Okay, I dream of having church on Sunday mornings in the pavilion, 9,000 young people worshiping Jesus. Okay, so we're going to plan for that, and then we're going to do it, right? So when this man, God gives him a dream, God gives him a vision, that we got to jump on board. You are blessed to have a pastor who is a cautious, a meticulous, a very clear-sounding voice. Like I'm all over the map, and he's like very methodically moving through his introduction. Like, this is the Jason Meyer that I met 16 years ago. I wish I could be that good. But I think that God is using my skill sets, and then I want to hone to be methodical, and that's when his email said, you need to stay right there on the platform for the media people, right? I was like, oh my God, this is insane. I'm like, and I'm all over the place, right?
You got a big platform. You can move all over.
Yes.
I like to go out in the crowd. So but it was good for me to stretch me today, but if to have someone that normally you get someone who's crazy or someone who's cautious, you don't usually get the person that's crazy that understands cautiousness, or someone who's cautious that understands crazy or wants crazy, right? And our personality sets make us who we are, and we need to honor that personality, and he honors my personality.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, you can't be afraid to dream, and you got to dream to reach your city.
He's the dreamer. He says I'm the dream killer sometimes, because I am the
Sometimes, all the time.
logical, pessimistic, what are all the details, all of that. But you can't, if you have a dream for your ministry, you have to be able to communicate that effectively to the people that are working with you, that are in the boat with you. You've got to be able to communicate. And there's 4 simple things that are key to communication. Timing, the timing of your conversation. You know what kind of conversation that has to be. The tone of your conversation. He always is about face-to-face. Text messaging can get so distorted because we don't know the tone of the conversation. Your technique and how you go about the conversation, and are you speaking truth in your conversation? Always bring your conversation back around to a foundation of principle and truth if you're dealing with an awkward situation or a situation with someone who's maybe not doing things as you want them to do. Timing is key, tone is key, technique is key, and truth is key. I told our people, I said, if I'm getting ready to go on the platform and there's a 5-minute countdown, that is not the time to come tell me about a problem that's happening. Timing is key. Learn and teach your people that are working with you when to have conversations. That is so key as leaders, and how to have that conversation and what to always put into that conversation, no matter what type of conversation it is. I'm over time.
So, last but not least, everybody say plan.
Plan.
And that's the most important thing to revival. There's a lot of people that pray and fast, and that's biblical, and that's what it takes. That's the difference maker. But if you're not okay, it's one of the things I've found some people that, hey, is this meeting going to be over? Oh my Lord, we have to go eat and come after church and have a 2:00 meeting. Are you kidding me? And then we got to pitch it to you guys. Like, come on, it's only going to be 21 minutes. Like, you're lying, right? You're asking a preacher to really do this in 21 minutes? Well, we're 1 minute, 26 minutes to be done in 21 minutes, right? And you can't believe we just sat through 21 minutes and you gave me everything. And when that beeper goes off, it's yours, okay? But it's important to plan and set and put structure in place and put things to do and script it and sort it. And if it's not there, be flexible in that transition. Understand the different personalities and, again, understand who everyone is. What's their story? Because at the end of the day, your story could be what changes the life of somebody that walks through those doors in your building. Your story, your testimony. That's what the Bible says, that we are overcomers by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. It's your story. What's a testimony? It's a story where God brought me. Like, look what, man, we've got somebody. Oh, you got that situation? We got somebody there. You got that situation? Oh, we got somebody there. We got so, and that's where everybody makes an impact in the kingdom of God. Everybody has a place. My 6-year-old boy stepped to the plate. What has he been doing this whole time? Anybody knows that?
Checking the timer.
Checking the timer, fixing it, get it moving. He's learning. Dad never asked him to do that. He's just recognizing, and we've poured that into him.
You can see it right now.
And now he's over there hanging on the chair, like, okay. Which is a perfect process that you're going to have babies. You're going to have babies that are in the church, and 1 minute they're going to be helping, the next minute they got their legs kicked out. So as leaders in the church, we've got to be patient. I love you.
I want to say one thing. A good plan gets you into the race, but execution propels you into the winner's circle. You can have a plan all day long, but teach your team to execute the plan that you put in place. You're the visionary, you're the one leading, you're the one putting it there. Get the plan in place, but then you have to follow up to make sure it's executed. One of the biggest things that we have dealt with teaching leaders is they'll say, okay, here's the plan. They got it all typed out. And then nobody follows up with anybody. And they're like, hey, where's so-and-so? What happened to this? Well, I gave them the paper. Follow up, follow up. Execution is key to the plan. So make sure your people know what the plan is, but then it's your responsibility as leaders to follow up with those people and like just reminding you got to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, or did you get those papers copied? Sometimes it can drive people crazy, but it's that fine line of trusting them to do the job, but also making sure that things are executed, especially when it's taken your pastor's vision. Okay, when he gives you that vision, it's up to us as the leaders to make sure that that is executed in a manner that is excellent.
So we went over time, not because of me. I love you guys. Thank
It's
you.
all how you view it.
Y'all